Hello, I'm Kristen Oakes-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. And Kristen, it's good to be back in the studio.
It is. It's great to be back. Well, Lafourche Parish farmers grow nearly $2 million worth of fruits and vegetables every year, and that's according to the LSU Ag Center.
As you know, Lafourche Parish was ground zero for Hurricane Ida. TWILA's Neil Melanson takes us to Raceland to show us how the wind and rain has ruined both homes and fields.
3 weeks after the storm, and Raceland is still showing damage from Hurricane Ida. The ubiquitous tarps and piles of debris are everywhere down here, and power isn't coming back on until the end of the month. At Arthur Lorette's home, a neighbor's steel roof clipped his roof towards the end of the hurricane.
Normally storms come through, a couple hours they're over. This one just sat and kept coming and coming and coming. And we actually never really got into the eye. We pretty much stayed right on that eye wall the whole time. But it was pretty hairy for a while.
The flying roof debris shattered the orange tree in Arthur's front yard. It's a symbol of the year he's had as a produce grower, constant rains and disappointing yields. Ida finished off his crop this year.
The fall crop was planted, and in about 3 weeks we was going to start harvesting, and that crop's completely destroyed. So we recultivated and replanted most of it. Time didn't allow for rains here again, so time didn't allow us to replant at all. But then we're looking at another 60 days before we can even come close to harvesting anything from that crop, probably closer to 90 days, where we would have been harvesting in 30, 40 days. So we're spinning, but we're not getting it back in.
And Ida's not done doing damage for him. Normally in the spring, he sells plants for gardens in his local community. Since the storm balled up his greenhouse and deposited it in between the barn and the shed, those plants won't be around this spring for sale.
Well, right now we're struggling because we're spending because of the storm. We're buying supplies we normally wouldn't buy, trying to cover greenhouses, trying to cover barns and do what we can do. We're burning gas in generators. We have no power. We won't have power till the end of the month.
In the meantime, he won't have income until November, barring another storm or freeze between now and then. Still, he's replanted his lost fields, holding on to the resilience of the people of South Louisiana and the joy of nurturing living things.
We're struggling, but we're surviving. We're resilient. We'll come back from it.
Now, of course, Lafourche Parish was not the only one affected by Ida. Anthony Liuzza in Tangipahoa Parish says while the storm destroyed many of the crops in his fields, he was already hurting because of the low prices for produce. Liuzza says cheaper tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants from Mexico undercut retail markets he worked hard to establish. In fact, Liuzza says he lost money on every box of bell peppers he sold this year. And guys, Anthony and Arthur Lorette both suffered this year, not only from those low markets, but from the rainfall that has just poured on us all year long. Ida aside, many of the crops in Lafourche Parish have just been washed away. I mean, even where it didn't completely wipe out fields, a 40% loss on, say, Arthur's tomatoes is still a big deal.
Oh yeah, no, that's an expensive crop to plant. And here we are. Nicholas is actually coming in right now as we're recording this. You were out in the rain earlier today.
Yeah, that's why I'm dressed like this.
Yeah, they don't need more of this. And then how long has it been since Mr. Lorette even had a paycheck?
July.
Wow.
Jeez.
He's not had a single source of income come in from July. And that's why I want to make the point of, if you're out there shopping and want to help people like Arthur Lorette, please continue to shop at your local farmers markets. His stuff, of course, isn't in the markets right now because he doesn't have any. It'll be November before some of that stuff gets back in, and that's barring any freezes. So the main thing is we need to continue the culture that we've had from the pandemic, to shop local, to shop at these farmers markets, get that fresh food. It's the best stuff you can get. It's the freshest stuff, and it will help support people like Arthur Lorette.
Well, that's a great point for reminding us, and a great story too. Thank you, Neil Melanson.
Well, Hurricane Ida has come and gone, but it has left its mark across Louisiana.
Sugarcane farmers in the state are trying to finish planting and prepare for the upcoming grinding season. But as Craig Gautreaux shows us, Ida has made doing both significantly more difficult in impacted areas.
Miles of downed power lines, mounds of storm debris, and mangled acres of sugarcane are common sights across southeast Louisiana. For those sugarcane farmers not finished planting, crooked stalks will make the job more difficult. With grinding set to start later this month, harvesting twisted stalks will be a tall task.
When those harvesters get in the field, it's going to be harder to actually harvest the canes with the machines. You're going to have mud, the cane's not going to be standing straight up. So all of those are issues that affect the farmers when it comes to harvest time.
Castro was examining a field not far from where the Eye of Ida crossed in St. John the Baptist Parish. Ripeners are typically applied to sugarcane early in the harvest season to increase sugar content, but they may be less effective because of Ida.
Some of the leaves are shredded, the tops are brown, and because of that, the ripener that they're spraying on the cane at this time before harvest might not take.
Sugarcane is a resilient crop and it is already trying to straighten itself out from the storm, but this process comes with a price.
It's a living thing, it's a plant, so it's going to use its energy to do that, and when that happens, then the yields, the sugar, there's less sugar, and therefore when you get to the mill, the yields are lower.
While flooding from Ida was not as significant as the storms that hit Louisiana last year, some isolated areas may have lost their plant cane.
They may have to replant again because some of that plant cane sat in water too long, and then with all the rain, it's hard to get out in the field to continue the planting process right now.
Damage estimates have about 25% of the state's 500,000 acres of sugarcane being affected by the storm. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Now, several mills sustained damage from the storm, which is causing grinding season to be delayed until early October. September 19th through the 25th is National Farm Safety and Health Week. The theme this year is Farm Safety Yield Real Results.
There's also a special theme for each day to give added focus to staying safe on the farm. Monday's theme is Tractor and Roadway Safety. Tuesday, Overall Farmer Health. Youth in Agriculture is the theme for Wednesday. Thursday's theme is Fertilizer and Chemical Safety, and Friday's theme is Women in Agriculture. In conjunction with National Farm Safety and Health Week, the AgriSafe Network is hosting 2 webinars a day that tie into those themes, according to Executive Director Natalie Roy.
So we've really put together a great lineup to help farmers stay safe in their operation and protect their employees. For example, we've got a session on anhydrous ammonia, which we know is very risky to work with, really concrete practical information on how to work around anhydrous. Friday, for example, we have a whole session just on women in agriculture. We know women farm, women part of those operations. They do have unique risks, such as lifting risks and ergonomic risks, so we want to make sure we pay attention to the female risks on the farm in terms of protecting those that are really making that workforce successful.
The webinars are free, but you still must register beforehand. To do so, you'll find a link with this story on all of our social media outlets and also on our website at twilatv.org. There's a feed grain in Louisiana that we grow that doesn't get much attention. It grows next to crops like corn, wheat, and soybeans. It's called grain sorghum, or milo.
About 60,000 acres of milo were grown in Louisiana this year. Nearly all of these acres have been harvested and have been shipped down the river and across the ocean to markets around the world. TWILA's Carl Wiggers traveled to Tensas Parish to learn about this beautiful and, for many, forgotten crop.
My name's Meade Hardwick. We're in Newellton, Louisiana at Somerset Plantation, and today we're harvesting milo, also known as grain sorghum. Milo is it's a feed grain. It is in the grass family, kind of like a corn. Well, it is a pretty crop. I mean, you know, it turns a nice dark maroon color. I mean, so it is pleasing to the eye. No, I don't get really emotionally wrapped up in milo like we do cotton, but it fits a management practice that we're going for. I mean, most things about it are fairly miserable. I mean, it's very itchy. You know, but it serves a purpose. It's grown in Texas and Kansas a lot where they have no water, but they also have some industry to consume that product. The market for us here in the U.S. in terms of price is really dictated by how much China is importing. Right now they are using tremendous amounts of it for their feed grains, but also in their brewing industry. They have an alcoholic drink that they use sorghum to make, and so right now the price is good, they're buying lots of it, demand is really strong. So for us, it's a great crop. This year we're right around 1,500 acres of cotton. We have 3,400 acres of beans, we have 2,200 acres of corn, and we have right around 800 acres of milo. Typically we would harvest milo prior to corn, go straight into corn, and then might have a few days there, maybe a week between our next harvest, which would be soybeans. it fits in well with our rotation and what we try to do from a soil health perspective, and also managing our own resources. So if we're really being heavy like we've been in the last few years, we're having to lease a third combine. It puts an extra stress on people, machinery. So with having milo back in the mix, we're able to spread out our harvest. So milo has a tendency to be considered sort of a stepchild crop. I didn't get my primary crop in, it's getting late in the year. Let's throw some milo out there, put minimal inputs in it, and we'll get something. We grow milo with the intent of making a crop. It can be a big part of our rotation for all the reasons we stated earlier. So we went into this with having a full mind of what we wanted to do to manage this crop. The last year that we grew milo was around 2016. It does not weather well. We had a really rainy July. The quality went down. Our yields also were not very good. And the market went away. It was not being exported. There was not much demand for it. We don't have a market for it locally, so it all goes export. Once that dried up, we kind of got out of the milo. Prices are back up, as we mentioned, so we went at it as we were hoping to kind of get back on the board, so to speak, with our milo production after seeing it go down a little bit. It is a very good dry land crop. We historically have used it on this farm to be in areas that may have limited water resources or completely dry land where we have irrigation that doesn't function as properly, where we haven't been able to make the investment to bring our irrigation up to standard. We were kind of hoping that we would get back to that 100, 110 bushel range in terms of just getting back on the board and seeing where we were management-wise. We did change some things, fertility, and right now the milo behind us is averaging around 120 to 135 bushels per acre. So we're really pleased with that. Hopefully it'll stay that way and won't go down, but for our first venture back into milo after about a 4-year break, we are pretty pleased with that so far.
The Hardwicks were not able to harvest all of their crop ahead of Hurricane Ida, but their farm was spared from heavy wind and rain that could have been harmful to the crop in the field. Still to come on TWILA, we get away from the storms to focus on National Rice Month.
But first, Jennifer Finley brings us a field to feast that will really get your goat, or at least make you want to get a goat. Next.
Welcome to Field to Feast, where we profile Louisiana and its local ingredients. This morning we're at Circle M Farms in Franklinton, Louisiana. I have Yvette Bonanno with me. We're going to join Nathan Miller and head to the cheese room, after which we will make the perfect charcuterie board for your home party.
Field to Feast with Jennifer Finley is brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, Louisiana Crawfish, ask before you eat, and by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council, beef, it's what's for dinner, and by the Louisiana Rice Promotion Board, think rice.
Learn about Circle M. So a friend of mine who bakes cakes with me over at the food incubator at LSU said you have to go out and see this goat cheese farmer. He's selling at the local farmers market, and it's taken some time for us to get out here and to connect. And when I called, he was like, please come out. I want to show you what we're doing.
I was in law enforcement for 11.5 years, and we owned a landscaping company as well, and moved up here and got cows, and we're playing with pigs and some other things. And we were getting ready to have children, and I mentioned to my wife, let's get a couple goats, and just for our own homestead. And we kind of tossed it around a little bit and getting ready to start having children, and I decided to surprise her one day for our anniversary with 4 goats. And then now we have well over 100 and milking about 70 of them a day.
I wanted to check out some of the products that you have here. So can you tell me all about what we're seeing?
Well, I'll start with our base, and this is Chev. It is just a soft goat cheese. This is pretty much the basis for
that looks beautiful.
Everything that we do. We provide our restaurants and our chefs with our base model that they can then take and make their masterpieces with. There's a few things that we do and make our masterpieces with, but we provide them with basically a plain feta, a plain Chev, and a plain yogurt.
So they can layer those flavors on top.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. That's correct.
Do you name the goat before you get it, or do you learn the personality and then she gets her name?
A little bit of both. Some of our animals came with names if we got them off of other farms, but our dairy is Southern Maids, and so we tend to stick with a lot of music, genres, artists, just different things from the South. And so you'll see names like the little one earlier, Daisy Duke, and we have, you know, some clementines.
I saw Georgia. And Lollipop.
So Georgia's her official name is Georgia on my mind, and then we have animals like Clementine.
You gotta have a Gladys
and
night.
Gladys,
You
right?
have
We do
a
have a
Gladys.
Gladys. We do have a Gladys.
I need my picture taken with Gladys.
No problem at all. We then go to our feta. We do start with just a basic feta. We do some marinated versions of this as well, but this is feta in a brine.
Wow.
That we sell in slabs. We don't crumble it or anything else. We let the chefs kind of do what they want to do. So our next thing is our yogurt, and our yogurt is we use 5 different cultures for our yogurt.
So this is like breakfast.
Correct.
You could add some fresh blueberries, some fresh
honey,
strawberries,
correct.
some honey,
Some
and have
granola,
some
different. That's exactly right. Well,
last but not least,
I'll take us to our
I'm
cheesecake.
scared for you to open that.
Well, this is so we make this with cream cheese that we do here on our farm.
Looks delicious.
And our chef, and we make them in 6 inches and 9s, and they are absolutely heavenly.
I mean, I feel like that could be breakfast.
Well, my children do eat it for breakfast, so they do.
And this is ground up from the beginning.
My wife and I have built this with blood, sweat, and tears.
And glad you did it.
Oh, extremely glad.
Next up, we're gonna head into the cheese room with my good friend, Chef Yvette Bonanno, and make the ultimate charcuterie board for your next party. So stay with us. Cheese room at Southern Maids Dairy, and we are about to make the ultimate charcuterie board with all of these fine fresh cheeses. Yvette, what do we have going on here?
I am so excited to try the cheese. Of course, presenting it on a cheese board and letting the cheese shine, in my opinion, is the most important thing about doing a charcuterie.
I have to tell you, I've been waiting to do this segment with you for about a year because my favorite thing in the world is to have appetizers, which instead of having lunch or dinner in the middle, dinner, you have appetizers. And the best way to do that is a charcuterie board, but it is an art form, and you have to teach all of us what that means.
Well, I think people are becoming more comfortable with the cheese selections. You go to your farmer's market or even your grocery stores, but they're seeing that a hard cheese, a soft cheese, a vein cheese, an aged cheese, a blue cheese, and just putting it all together to where it looks attractive. So we're gonna go ahead and put some of the goat cheese here on the board. And then I love the feta. I mean, this is decadent. I made some fig preserve using local figs from Lake Arthur with some local honey, some decoy Zinfandel wine, and some balsamic. So that'll go right next to it. We'll do some of our nuts next to this. Greek feta cheese. How about some honey next to that?
Love it.
We've got our olives that can go in. And then again, I did the pimento cheese, and we'll go ahead and put that right over here. This is Asiago with rosemary. This is a Gouda that's been soaked in Merlot wine. So that's gonna go on right there.
And a brie.
And a brie. So again, a brie is happy with fig and nut too. To this, we've got a little bit of salami and some capicola. I've got some apricots. Now we can just tuck those in right here.
And the fresh fruits.
We've got the fresh fruit, grapes, some strawberries.
When you're going and you're looking at all the cheeses that are available, it's important to like take a flight, like a flight of beers, a flight of cheeses in all the different flavor palettes. How do I know how to choose 5 different cheeses that will be different in flavor?
Well, and I'll tell you, this is what I do. I will go and I know I want a goat, I want a cheddar, I want a blue cheese or a soft brie, I want something hard like an Asiago. I love Robusta, the aged Goudas, and then I'll pick one that I don't know.
Okay.
And like, you know, the Midnight Goat is out right now. You know, Whole Foods, they have a wonderful selection. I always like to kind of go for the local because I know if I grab that, I've never had it before, and neither have my guests.
That to me is gonna make this board unique, different, and absolutely over the top.
So I've made these lavash crackers. It's just simply a lavash bread that you just put into the oven with a little bit of olive oil. And we can just kind of set that right
That
here.
makes you look terribly festive.
You know what? That's what we're going for.
You are festive.
That's what we're going for. And we can kind of go like this. And then I'm just thinking maybe some fresh figs over the top.
I feel like fireworks are supposed to be going off somewhere. This is so fabulous.
And you can take something, again, that's local, looks absolutely gorgeous. You can tell the story of where it's coming from, and you can enjoy.
Thank you so much for
You're so
showing us
very
how to
welcome.
do this ultimate charcuterie board, especially using Southern Made Dairy fresh cheeses.
I cannot wait to dive into this.
I mean, I cannot wait. I don't know what I'm going for first. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Field to Feast. Right now, dig in. What's first?
Field to Feast with Jennifer Finley was brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, Louisiana Crawfish, ask before you eat, and by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council, beef, it's what's for dinner, and by the Louisiana Rice Promotion Board, think rice.
It's now time for a TWILA Boost powered by Entergy Solutions, which can help you decrease energy use and maintain a modern, safe operation. After 3 weeks of Ida coverage, I think we all need a non-hurricane related boost this week, Kristen.
I could not agree more, Avery. That's why September is National Rice Month, and it's a time to celebrate and recognize the grain that fills so many of our iconic Louisiana dishes. This week, we're sharing an excellent video created by one of our young Farm Bureau members and photographer, Caroline Doise, featuring some of the beautiful sights from her family farm's rice harvest in Jeff Davis Parish. We hope you enjoy.
Those are pretty pictures. I love harvest photos.
And if you want to see that entire video, you can head over to our website, twilatv.org, and we put a link for you there. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we will celebrate 40 years of TWILA on the air.
Yep, I was 7 years old when this started. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find all of these stories and more on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you know when we put something new out there.
For all of us here at TWILA, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.